Hello, friends. Today you will see how a dinner routine hides a second heartbeat. The scene centers on Daniel and a hidden phone in his blazer, surrounded by Mira and the kids. Behind the quiet kitchen glow, a lie about a late meeting and the unspoken gaps between words hint at something darker lurking. Watch closely. The kitchen light hums and throws a pale glare over the dinner plates. Daniel stands at the sink, washing the last mug with ceremonial patience, as if the water could rinse away a doubt he cannot name. The clock on the wall ticks louder than the dishwasher. 8:30, 9 comes closer, and the routine of the Hart household steadies itself around him like a visible shield. Mira enters from the living room, shoulders packed with the day, eyes already calculating the gaps between what is said and what isn't. The kids drift in behind her, a daughter's quiet shoes, a son's bright sneakers, the bubble of ordinary evenings. They sit, they eat, they smile, but the smile feels borrowed, like a memory you forced to fit a new day. "I thought you'd be home earlier," Mira says, not accusing so much as testing the ground under their feet. "Late meeting," Daniel replies, the lie sliding into place as smoothly as the kettle's whistle. He doesn't meet Mira's gaze. He studies the steam rising from the pot instead, careful not to let anything outside the kitchen's glow slip into his peripheral vision. The clock's hands lag in their slow drift toward parents' bedtime, and the children begin the after-dinner ritual. Phones, doors, the small negotiations of who will say goodnight, where. Daniel wipes the rim of a glass, then a second of misstep. He sets it down with too much gravity, as if the weight will hold the room steady even when the words don't. In the pocket of his blazer, the hidden phone stirs, a faint glow pressing against fabric as if it has become a second heartbeat. He notices it, presses his lips together, and returns to the surface of the dining table. The image of the family as a settled thing in his hands. The phone remains a secret in plain sight, the thing that never speaks but always knows. Ella looks up from her plate, a glance that slips straight through the polite calm. "Dad, you forgot to tell us about the game Saturday," she says, not accusing but requiring him to be present, truly present in a way he hasn't been for weeks. John laughs and nods, yet the laughter lands unevenly, as if he knows there's a fault line underneath the room. The air tightens between Daniel and Mira, a thread pulled tight, waiting for a breath to snap it. After the dishes, Daniel moves to clear the table, an act of quiet duty that doubles as a shield. The hidden phone's screen floods his pocket with a whisper of possibility. He thinks of telling the children to go, of insisting on the old boundaries, of choosing the safe silence that keeps the image intact. Yet the image, that stubborn, public Hart family statue, feels both protective and suffocating. The room grows smaller as Mira approaches with the soft, practical questions that begin every late night. Schedules, commitments, promises. If you're truly late again, if this is your new normal, how long before the image you guard becomes a lie you cannot live with? She asks, not cruelly, but with the exactness of someone who has learned to measure every word. Daniel opens his mouth as if to answer, but his throat tightens. The hidden phone trembles in his pocket, a quiet reminder of another life that knows his name, another life that knows his fear of letting go. The moment lingers, the possibility of truth broad and terrifying, the pull of the easy, protective mask, the room's stillness that demands a decision. He breathes, then says, barely audible, "We can talk after the kids are asleep." The question stays in the air, thick as a shadow. Can Daniel choose truth without destroying the family he's learned to protect with a person's image? Without breaking the fragile trust he claims to want to repair? Autumn pressed the house into dusk. Daniel pushes through the door, rain pinching his shoulders, the latch clicking soft. He sets a leather bag on the tile, avoids Mira's gaze, moving to the coffee kettle as if the ritual could erase the day. The clock on the wall ticks 11:47, a stubborn metronome against the hush. Mira is at the sink, sleeves rolled, the dishwater pale in the window light. She senses him before she sees him, the way his breath comes in a measured whoosh, the way his shoes carry the damp rumor of somewhere else. She wipes her hands and pockets the day's fatigue. The home feels thinner than it did this morning. On the island, a phone glints, not new, but carefully hidden. The screen a pale blue ember that refuses to sleep. He skirts the chrome of the island and reaches for the mug. She stays still, watching the glow. "Long day," he says, a half smile tipping the edge of his mouth. "Just a dozen emails to close, that's all." "In one city or two?" Mira asks, not accusing, just measuring. He shrugs, the word slipping out as if someone else had spoken it. "Both." Her eyes narrow, not with rage, but with a ledger opening in her chest. Receipts, timestamps, silences she didn't know how to read. "Show me the messages then," she says, voice careful, not loud enough to wake the kids, but loud enough to pull him upright. He moves a breath too slowly, the mug rocking, the steam fogging his words. "Not now. Let's not derail this." He darts a glance at the hidden phone as if it might answer for him. "Derail what?" Mira's gaze stays steady, his lies thinning under the light, small cracks appearing in the frame of his face. She steps closer, the space between them thinning, a line drawn in smoke. "If there's something you're not telling me, tell me. Now." The phone's glow ticks in the quiet, a small lighthouse in a rough sea. He wants to shield the image, wants to tidy away the shadows with a joke or a citation about a client meeting. But the image is fraying too quickly to salvage with bravado. The room seems to close in. Photos on the mantel, the ring she once wore with him somewhere in the air between them. "I thought we agreed that some things stay between us," he says. But even he doesn't believe the words. "And what if the things you keep hidden start to erode the things I can trust?" Her voice softens, but the question lands, heavy and exact. They stand there, the hidden phone a stubborn beacon, the clock counting down. Then she asks the line that will not be answered tonight. "Daniel, am I the only truth you fear losing?" Autumn light pools through the windows, turning the living room into a quiet stage. The sofa cushions sigh when Daniel sits, hands loose and oddly careful around his coffee mug. Mira is there too, a pale lamp halo behind her, eyes sharpened by fatigue and something else. Keen, calculating. John mouths a joke about school and slips away. Ella sits on the stairs with a notebook, listening for the creak of truth in the floorboards. On the coffee table lies the hidden phone, face down, a small, merciless proof of a life he's tried to tuck away. The screen's glow doesn't betray itself when it's off. But tonight, the device seems to twitch with a breath he doesn't own. Daniel tells himself to breathe, to smile, to pretend, until the pretense feels like a skin that won't hold. "You're late again," Mira says, not angry, but precise, like a surgeon marking a patient for the cut that will matter most. Her tone doesn't demand an apology. It demands a confession he's determined to dodge. "I had a late meeting," he says, already rehearsed, already hollow. The room tightens. The walls move closer. He notices Ella fidgeting at the edge of his vision, and John's door leaning on its hinge a fraction too wide, as if the house itself is listening. The phone sits bold and innocent on the table, a rumor made metal. A notification blinks once, quiet as a heartbeat. Daniel's fingers twitch, The ring of their marriage, its gold worn smooth, feels suddenly fragile as a glass held with too much care. Mira leans forward, not touching him, but touching the space between them with a question that lands like a pebble in a well. "Show me your phone," she says, not confrontational, but heavy with consequence. He shifts, protective instinct flaring, then coughs out a breath and does what he swore he wouldn't. He unlocks the device, taps the screen, and the message thread stares back, harmless to a careless eye, blistering to a careful soul. A nickname, a timestamp, a promise to meet later. It's nothing monstrous in itself, a trivial flicker of a life that never learned to sleep. Yet it sits there like a locked drawer, and the drawer is theirs. Mira's gaze doesn't soften. It sharpens, the edge of a knife catching the lamplight. The room grows smaller, the ceiling pressing down with the weight of what has to be said. Daniel watches the air between them, sees it thicken with the unspoken truth he has spent nights rehearsing how to evade. "I'm not asking for a novel," Mira finally says, quiet enough that Ella and John might hear if they leaned in. "I'm asking for you to tell me the truth you've been hiding behind the lie of a perfect life." The room holds its breath. Daniel's mouth opens and then closes. The confession paused on his tongue like a note halfway sung. The hidden phone glows once more, not with a demand, but with a choice. Whether to reveal or retreat, whether to keep the picture intact, or to let the frame crack and reveal what lies beneath. "Who is this for?" Mira asks, voice cracking just enough to betray risk and heartbreak. "For us? Or for the image you've tried so hard to protect?" The kids shift. The old drawing of a house on Ella's lap testifies to safety, to an innocence now under siege. Daniel looks at Mira, then at the phone, then at the family who waits. The answer he refuses to name prickles at his lips, and he exhales, counting the seconds in the quiet. "Tell me the truth," Mira says again, not threatening, not cruel, but final. And Daniel's heart barrels toward a doorway that leads outside the life he knows. He leans in, the words ready but heavy, and the room seems to tilt toward either mercy or ruin. The question lingers, unanswered, like a door left ajar in a storm. Can they survive the truth and keep the bond they've built together? Or will the truth tear them apart? Autumn evening leaks through the kitchen blinds, pale light thinning as the rain taps the window. Daniel stands at the island, coat draped over a chair, a glass of whiskey cooling at his elbow. The family photo on the mantel holds its stubborn smile, a whisper of what used to be certain. The hidden phone lies wedged under a napkin, a pale screen catching a sly glimmer from the lamp. He tries to still himself, to pretend the room holds still as well. "I am in control," he thinks, and the thought lands with a stubborn tremor. You can manage two lives. You can keep the house quiet. The observer inside him, the one who watches the price of every choice, notes the drift of his breath, the chill in his ribs, the way his pulse hammers in his ears. The phone stirs, a soft glow slipping from beneath the napkin like a breath. A ping threads the air, landing in his chest, not in the kitchen. He does not reach for the screen. He holds, counts to 10, then 10 again. The ritual of staying calm, the ritual of keeping the image intact. But the room rearranges in that small breath of time. The clock ticks louder. The photo seems to bend at the corners, the smiles threatening to tilt and reveal something else. The whiskey glass begins to sweat, the way secrets do when they shoulder their way into daylight. The observer within him watches the thought ripple. If I tell Mira now, the house might shatter. If I hide, the lie gnaws until I am hollow. He imagines Mira's gaze, the way she would line up words like chalk marks on a board. Pain labeled, not explained. A map of what her loyalty costs. He imagines Ella and John, their furniture of childhood. Saturday mornings, homework. Dinners that pretend nothing is broken. The imagined scene narrows to the glow of the phone, not loud or accusatory, but steady. A warning that won't be ignored. The phone stays where it is. He tips the napkin aside and lets the device surface again. A quiet retreat. A vote against revelation. A decision to protect the image a little longer. The room contracts into a man, a clock, a glass, and a dare. Name the truth or name the lie, and live with whichever is heavier. He lifts the glass, lets the burn bloom in his throat, and says nothing aloud. The observer's verdict remains. The choice is imminent, and the cost will be both private and public. Can he choose truth without destroying the family? Rain drums the glass above the sink, a metronome for the quiet that curls through the Hart kitchen. Autumn light bleeds along the counter, but the glow from the hidden phone stays cool, a pale ember wedged under a napkin like a secret pressed into the frame of the day. Mira stands in the doorway between dining room and kitchen, still in the coat she shed hours ago. Her voice comes soft, then decisive, the way a rainstorm can feel personal. "We need to talk, Daniel. Now." Her eyes sweep the room, as if cataloging every small lie the house might have swallowed. Daniel sits with the back of a chair pressed to his spine, fingers fidgeting with the edge of the island. He has learned to stage his reactions, to time his breath, to look like he's already chosen the right path, even as he hedges. He sinks his shoulders and offers a narrow smile that never quite reaches his eyes. "Talks like this always feel heavier than they should," he says, choosing the cautious route, the route of control. She steps closer, not shouting, but close enough that the word truth should feel tangible in the air. Her voice lowers to a confidential level that isn't confidential at all. "I've seen the pattern, the late nights, the evasive answers, the way you disappear into the study and lock the door." She gestures toward the napkin, toward the napkin's hidden guest, the phone. The napkin slides away with a small hiss of shame, as if the room itself recoils from what it hides. Daniel's jaw tightens, the muscles there a map of calculation. He wants to plead for time, wants to lay out a program, wants to pretend the problem is merely logistical and solvable with better boundaries. He slides one palm over the other, like a man calming a horse that knows the moment is not for running. "We can work through this," he says. But the words sound to him more like a pledge to himself than a promise to her. Mira's eyes don't soften. They pin him with a weight that makes the air feel too dense to breathe. "No more workarounds. I need clarity. I need to know what's real and what isn't." She tilts her head toward the napkin, toward the phone, toward the shard of a life she didn't sign up to share. The room narrows to the hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, the soft breath they both hold. His chest lifts once, twice, and the old reflex to control crowds his thoughts. He considers a safe confession, the kind that reassures without breaking. But it's the kind that would still leave a line of doubt in her voice, a line he knows he cannot erase with polite phrases. The phone gleams once more, an uninvited second speaker in the room. Its light is a pale, unblinking verdict. He watches it as if watching a rival collection its evidence. A memory flickers of a promise he made to himself about truth and consequence. The kind of promise that sounds noble until it costs someone you love. Mira steps in with a measured breath. "If you tell me now, we can decide together what comes next." Her stance is open, but her posture is a low flame. Calculated, necessary, ready to burn down a wall, if that's what truth requires. Daniel looks at her, then at the phone. then back at her again. The argument in his chest wages between a plan and a gasp. He wants to protect what is left, wants to pretend the room can bear two versions of a life without breaking. The grip on the island loosens just enough to betray his fear. An old fear, the one that says a man who speaks too plainly will lose what he loves most. The phone screen glows once more, a quiet punctuation that demands attention. He breathes out, not with certainty, but with the acknowledgement that the moment has changed its tempo. He taps the edge of the counter, a measured, almost ceremonial action, and then his eyes lift to hers with a fragile honesty he has practiced but never owned. "What if we start by saying this aloud?" he begins, and the sentence hangs, unfinished, as if expecting the room to fill in the rest. The confession, he imagines, feels like a door he could push open with a single step. But there is the risk that the door could swing shut, separating them in a way that cannot be mended. Mira's jaw tightens, not with anger, but with the gravity of a verdict she hasn't anticipated. "Say it then. Don't guard the hinge." The moment swells, then curdles on the edge of his lips. He swallows, and the air tastes of rain and the dull ache of a choice half formed. He opens his mouth, but the word arrives late, tangled in fear and memory, and the stubborn hope that he might still steer this toward a salvageable truth. The room holds its breath, the hidden phone a small, cold oracle on the counter. A single chime, soft, almost tender, rises from the device, then falls away into the hush. The question remains unspoken, suspended between two people who want different answers but share the same burden. Can honesty, costly as it may be, become enough to heal what's been broken without destroying what remains? And as the pause thickens, the gaze between them narrows to a line that might shatter or might begin to mend. The answer hovers in the air, uncaught, a question that asks itself again and again. Can Daniel choose truth without destroying the family? The house settles into the autumn hush. The fridge sighs, a rain drizzle taps the window, and the glow from the hidden phone, the little, patient beacon, keeps its vigil in the kitchen. The answer, still unspoken, waits for a choice that feels possible only as a dangerous shift in the room's gravity. The living room holds its breath as autumn settles outside, rain tapping the windows like a hesitant audience. Daniel stands in the half-dark, the soft glow of the kitchen lamp pooling on the floor and pooling again on the hidden phone, tucked away in a drawer until tonight. It's not loud, just a faint, persistent badge that pulses in the quiet, a small moon kept in a pocket, reminding him of what he's kept hidden. He gives himself a breath, slow and measured, as if he can rehearse the words into a shape that won't crumble the moment they leave his mouth. The door to the dining room sighs shut behind Mira and the kids when they drift in from their separate halls of homework and late-night snacks. She looks at him with that precise, searching gaze. Fences up, eyes open, not blind to the way his ties feel looser, the way his late arrivals have stitched a new pattern into their evenings. "Can we talk?" he says, and his voice sounds foreign to his own ears, too quiet, too careful, as if he's stepping onto a stage he never intended to inhabit. Mira doesn't move, except for the way her hands fold into themselves, a habit she keeps in check. "About what, Daniel?" Her tone isn't accusation yet. It's the calm before a storm she already senses. There is a pause, a real, grinding pause, during which Daniel reaches out, not to touch her, but to touch the truth he's long since prodded into hiding. He unlocks the drawer and sets the hidden phone on the coffee table. The badge on its screen glows faintly, as if counting the breaths between them. "I've been honest about a lot of things with you," he begins, and the words feel heavy, like stones slid from a riverbed. I've told myself I was protecting you, protecting us, by keeping something secret. But that protection is a lie that wears you down, and it's wearing me down faster than I can bear. The room tightens. Ella's drawing on the fridge, an image of a house with a sun, wobbles in the frame. John shifts his weight, aware that every syllable lands somewhere like a dropped pin in a map of unspoken pain. I've lived in two versions of myself, Daniel says, his gaze dropping to his hands, then lifting. One that smiles and goes to work and tucks the kids into bed. And another that sneaks in late, edits promises, guards a life that isn't ours to guard anymore. I thought I could hold the two together without breaking anything. But I was wrong. I've broken something. He looks at Mira, really looks, as if seeing her for the first time in a long time. Not the wife who forgives easily, not the mother who believes the best in him, but a person who deserves the truth in full daylight. Mira's breath catches. The air between them shifts, the room suddenly smaller, more intimate, but not in a warm way. It's raw, the kind that wounds, but also, somehow, clears space for saving. The truth is not a weapon, Daniel, she says softly. But it's also not a cure-all. It hurts. I will tell the truth, he says, and the words feel both terrifying and somehow right. I will face the consequences. Not to punish you, but to take responsibility for what I've done to us. I want us to heal, whether that means together or apart. I owe you that choice, and I owe the kids the knowledge they deserve about the man under the mask they've learned to trust. The hidden phone hums once, a small, cruel reminder that a secret still breathes somewhere in the room, that the badge has not vanished with the words. Daniel sets it gently down and slides his chair closer to Mira, as if proximity can lamplight the way forward. Tell me how to move forward, he says, steadying his voice with a practiced calm that still trembles at the edge. If you want distance, I'll go. If you want you, but not the half me you've learned to live with, I'll become someone who earns your trust again. If you want our family to try, we will seek help, set boundaries, redefine what honesty looks like for us. Mira studies him, every line of her face reading the weight of the moment, the choice, the consequences. The room holds its breath again, the rain turning to a softer hiss on the glass, the autumn light dying into a pale, uncertain blue. Look at me, she finally says, and her voice isn't soft as before. It carries a weight of decision. If you tell me everything, will we still be us? The question hovers, not answered, as if the house itself wants to listen for the truth before committing to a shape of tomorrow. Daniel meets her gaze with something like a tightened relief, the first tremor of courage turning slow and definite. Yes, he says, almost in a whisper. We will decide. The word feels fragile and brave at once, a hinge that might swing toward a future or slam shut on a past. He reaches out, not to erase the tension with a touch, but to offer the room the space to breathe. To begin. The hidden phone glows once more, a quiet witness to a turning point. The moment a choice is made to step into the consequences rather than hide behind them. And the room, the family, the night itself seems to listen, as if the truth, once spoken aloud, might finally distill into something manageable, or at least into a path they can walk together or apart, with enough honesty to keep from breaking what remains. The question remains in the air, unanswered, suspended between two futures. Will they stay to hear the whole truth? Or will the truth ask them to choose a new belonging, one that can bear the weight of honesty? The living room holds its breath, Outside, rain taps the glass and the autumn dusk presses in, narrowing the room to a circle of dim light and the soft creak of the sofa as the family settles into its new, uneasy shape. The husband stands near the coffee table, hands loose at his sides, eyes not meeting anyone but tracking the edge of a hidden life he has kept tucked behind a door that no longer feels sturdy. The wife sits with measured poise, shoulders squared, gaze unblinking. The daughter sits cross-legged on the rug, her notebook forgotten in her lap, sketching a house that once felt safe. The son leans against the couch, arms folded, watching and listening with the wary patience of someone who has heard promises break before. In the center of the table, the hidden phone rests like a small, guilty moon. Its glow is a pale beacon in the otherwise muted room, a sign that the quiet is not innocent and the air is thick with consequences. The husband takes a step forward, a choice looming in his chest as he opens his mouth and lets honesty thread through the room. "I have been living with two truths," he says, voice steady and suddenly raw. "One you know, my public self. The one I thought you deserved. The other, a private current I insisted I could keep separate." He searches the wife's face, finds only a cool, grave attention. Her mouth compresses. She does not brace for mercy. She nods, not with assent, but with the gravity of someone who has waited so long for a fracture to become visible. The daughter's pencil stills. The son shifts and buries his face a moment in his hoodie sleeve, then looks up, as if confronting a storm he cannot name. The husband continues, not to justify, but to account. "I am not asking for permission to continue hiding. I am asking to be held to the truth. I owe you the chance to decide what comes next, for us, for them." He swallows, feels the room tilt a fraction toward him and away at the same time. "I will bear whatever comes if it means we stop pretending. If you want me to leave the door open to repair, I'll walk through it. If you want distance, I'll give it and wait. Keep the channels clear. If you want a path back, therapy, conversations, boundaries, I'll walk that road." The wife's eyes search the hidden glow, as if the phone might swallow her questions whole or spit out the right answer. "What boundary?" she asks finally, voice even, but the tremor underneath is there, a thread pulled tight. What rules will protect us from the next breath, from the next moment when a secret could steal the quiet again? He looks at the hidden phone, then back at her, a quiet, almost apologetic gravity in his posture. "No more secret corners," he says. "No more late-night doors that close with a click you can hear in the kitchen. If something belongs to this house, it belongs here, in the light, under a roof we all share. If I slip, say so. If I fall short, remind me. We face it together, or we don't face it at all." The daughter glances at her mother, then back to the floor. The son shifts again, a protector instinct waking, uncertain how to hold his father's truth and his mother's fear at once. The room narrows to breaths, and the faint, ghostly hum from the phone, a small marker that something undeniable has changed, not only in the man who spoke, but in the space they occupy as a family. "Can we live with this new honesty?" the wife asks, not defiant but wary, a hinge waiting to bear a door's weight. The husband answers only with a quiet, resolute nod. He has chosen a path that relinquishes control in exchange for accountability. The choice itself seems to settle into the room like a new gravity, a truth that must be shouldered rather than hidden behind a metaphorical curtain. The mother's lips part, then close. The son reaches out and lays a tentative hand on his sister's shoulder. She offers a small, shaky smile, the first sign of a fragile bridge being built. The hidden phone languishes in the center of the table, its glow a soft, inexorable reminder that the past cannot be sealed away. "Let's talk tomorrow," the wife says finally, not triumphantly, but with a practical, brittle hope. "Let's lay out the boundaries. Let's decide what we owe to each other and to them." She looks at the husband, then at the children, and back at the phone as if it might answer in some language only they can hear. The husband lifts his hands, palms open, a gesture of surrender and invitation. Yes, tomorrow. Tonight we begin with what we owe to them and to ourselves. Truth, respect, and a willingness to redefine what family means in the light of honesty. The room settles again, not into ease, but into the potential of a new arrangement. The question threads through the air, hanging, unspoken, yet palpable. Will they accept the truth and rebuild trust, or will the next door close forever? The glow of the hidden phone refuses to fade, and in its pale light, the family sits, listening for an answer none of them can pronounce aloud. The kitchen glows with the dull orange of autumn lamps, the clock ticking in a quiet tempo that dreadfully mimics how my pulse meets Mira's gaze. A refrigerator hums, a whiteboard magnet clinging stubbornly to the door. On it, a neat schedule. Therapy, weekly, family check-ins, one private session for me. The handwriting is clean, almost apologetic. I stand in the doorway, hands tucked into my jeans, feeling the weight of my own secrecy pressing back into me like a second skin. Mira doesn't say hello. She doesn't pretend. She sets a mug down with a soft clink, eyes fixed on that pale list as if it were a map of where we might still find ourselves. "Daniel," she says, and the name lands like a measured chisel strike. Not angry, not loud, thoughtful, wary, precise. The dominant thing in the room is not my history, but the choice staring at us from the fridge. I take a breath I don't know how to measure, and I walk to the counter as if it's a stage, and we are all actors with a deadline. I've been living with two versions of this life, and it's not a talent or a strength. It's a habit that's not sustainable. The words taste like metal on my tongue. Shame blooms, bright and hot, then begins to cool as I add, I want a plan that ends the pretense. I want honesty, not explanations that soften the truth into something we can manage. Mira crosses her arms, the problem-solving posture of someone who has practiced restraint for years. Then show me the plan, not the remorse. Tell me how this changes tonight, not in some nebulous future. Her voice stays even, but the edge of it is a thing she's tested many times. I point to the fridge, to the line by line of that clerical schedule. We start with transparency. You'll know where I am, who I'm with, when I'm talking to someone who isn't you. We'll reset boundaries. No hidden screens, no late-night ambiguity, no preparations to slip back into old habits. We'll go to therapy, both of us, and I'll attend on the days we don't cancel. And we'll tell the kids what they need to know, within reason, without exposing them to the uglier details. I swallow the word uglier, because I know what those details do to a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, how they learn to measure love by the precision of a parent's truth. Mira's eyes search mine, then shift to the door so quickly it's almost a blink. Ella and John are there, hovering between the living room and the kitchen, the soft breath of their presence turning our talk into something they can hear, something they must hear to feel safe again. The air between us tightens, the kind of tension that makes every syllable count. Ella tilts her head, a line of worry crossing her features, while John's jaw tightens as if to secure a guarded stance around his mother's tenderness. My heart tries to cushion the hurt I've caused with this fragile contraption of a plan. but I know the repair won't be easy if we pretend the room isn't listening. Okay, Mira finally says. Not loud, not soft, just clear. Okay, we start here. But we don't pretend this ends tonight. We pace it, we own it, we fear it, and we commit to it. The fridge door reflects us. 3 faces, 2 hesitant, 1 stubbornly hopeful. The symbol is there, plain as day, a whiteboard warning and promise in the same breath. We are choosing to be seen. The children step closer, and the space between us feels less like a gulf and more like a doorway. Can we solidify these new boundaries? The question lingers, not spoken aloud, but hanging in the steam of the kettle, in the crease of Mira's mouth, in the soft, unwilling tremor of a boy's hand on the chair back. We stand with it, watchful, listening and still, waiting for the answer to become a daily practice rather than a promise. The kitchen is a quiet engine of dusk. The autumn light spills along the counter, pooling on a white notepad where a neat print reads, "Therapy schedule." Daniel slides the magnet of a calendar into view, as if presenting a device that might turn the room from brittle to bearable. Mira stands by the fridge, arms folded not in defense, but in decision. Her eyes, once soft with routine, are sharp tonight. The air between them has the tremor of a space that has held too much unsaid. "Let's start with the truth we owe," Daniel says, voice steadier than his hands. "Not the version you've grown used to, not the one I've pretended to inhabit. I'm ready for therapy, for confession if you want it, for a plan that holds us together or shows us we can't be together in the old way." Mira's breath catches, then steadies. "A plan," she repeats, and the word lands like careful steps on a creaking floor. A plan that doesn't vanish in a week when the heat comes off the stove. I need boundaries, Daniel. Clear ones. The kids are here in the doorway between rooms. Ella, 15, eyes widened with a patience born of watching a family that previously looked intact. And John, 12, all earnest questions pressing at the corners of his mouth. They don't move closer. They listen from the threshold, the way a crowd leans in at the edge of a scene they're not sure they're allowed to witness. Daniel meets Mira's gaze. 2 lives is a fiction, and I've lived it long enough to know it's not a life at all. If we try this, it has to be real. He stops. The moment wants to split, but he presses on. Truth will hurt, but it can also heal. The plan is simple. Weekly family therapy, individual therapy for me. A transparent flow of information we all agree on. I'm not asking for permission to keep secrets to spare you. I'm asking to be held accountable. Mira tests the syllables with a practiced calm. Accountability starts with the thing you're most afraid to show. Your phone, your calendar, your whereabouts, every uttered word. She taps the fridge lightly, not angry, more inquisitive than accusing. If there's a door you've closed, you'll open it wider. We'll decide what the kids need to hear, when. There will be a point where I decide we've talked enough for the week and you've talked enough for a month. And we pause to regain breath. Ella steps forward, tentative but fierce. "If you're asking us to trust you again, then you have to show us what trust looks like every day." She shifts and adds softly, "And not just when someone's watching." John nods, a boy with too much noticing in his lip and too much loyalty in his hands. "We want the truth, even the hard parts. If you're going to tell us something, tell us all of it in order, without skipping the bad bits." Daniel's throat works. The room narrows to the rhythm of their breathing, the clock's thin tick marking time that cannot be bought or borrowed. He lifts a hand not to grasp, but to offer something he cannot quite name. This is the first page, he says, and his voice steadies with a quiet gravity. This fridge schedule is our symbol, a routine we can rely on. Therapy on Tuesday, therapy on Thursday, a note to tell the kids what they can expect. No surprises that aren't scheduled. If I break that rhythm, you call me back. If I lie about it, you throw the schedule at me and I own it out loud. Silence, the kind that asks for more than a spoken sentence and receives it as a draft of a future you can touch if you move carefully. Mira's eyes search his, as if trying to read the geometry of a broken map he insists he's learning to redraw. She exhales, small, almost a thing you can see if you have the patience to watch a person exhale the truth. Boundaries aren't walls, she finally says, softer but no less firm. They are guardrails. They keep us on the road we decide to walk. If we stumble together, with witnesses, with the people who love us, not with the past dragging us backward. Daniel nods. A man who has learned how to take a long breath after a long lie. Then let us begin with the truth we owe the children. To hear it, to understand it, to choose how they will stand in the wreckage or the rebuilding. The kids exchange glances, the kind that says, "We are not shrinking from the truth." Not anymore. The living room, once a stage for appearances, feels suddenly like an emptying wellspring. Clear water gathering at the bottom, waiting. For a heartbeat, the night declares its own vote. The choice is made, and the house does not shatter. It steadies softly, as if listening for rain that might come tomorrow or the day after that, and deciding to wait anyway. Daniel lifts the fridge door with a careful, almost ceremonious touch. The schedule glow casts a pale light across their faces, a small sun that can neither burn nor warm, but insists on showing what is possible if they choose to walk toward it. Can we bind these new boundaries to the old joys we still deserve? Mira asks, not to test him, but to test the road itself. The room remains suspended, awaiting the answer that will define the next chapter. A yes that is not a surrender, a no that keeps a door open. A tentative future co-authored by 4 lives, learning how to tell the truth without losing what they most deeply want to protect. And outside, the wind shifts, as if listening too.